Hello there.
Hi there, good morning. This is Tanya Friedman. We are live today and it is not Friday. Usually I start off and say it's Facebook Live with Tanya and the legal experts, but today it is. Hi there, Carl. Hi there. Good morning.
Hello.
This is Tanya Friedman. We are live. Carl, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. I think we had a little technical hitch there, so I'm going to start again. It's Tanya Friedman, the Chief Operating Officer of Kinetics. As I said a minute ago, usually I start off and say it's Friday Facebook Live with Tanya and the legal experts, but today it is a Tuesday, so we have an extra special session for you all by big request. Many of you have been asking us to do an additional session because you have a lot of questions about some of the changes that are happening right now on the immigration side. Unfortunately, Chris and Jacob are not able to join us today, but we're very grateful to have Carl with us. And I'm going to get right to the questions at hand. Carl, do you want to give a quick introduction? I think nobody needs you to introduce yourself anymore, Carl. They all know who you are, but if you want to give like 2-second introduction.
Okay. I worked for the Immigration Service in the 70s and 80s, where I met my wife, who's from Cebu. And I started private practice in the early 1980s, and we specialize in nurses. We've immigrated over 10,000 nurses to the US, and hopefully some of the people that are listening today, we can help them come to the US as well.
Okay, that's right, Carl. Nobody must lose the American dream. There's hope. I know there've been a lot of challenges lately, but there is still lots of hope, which is great. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna just say hi to everybody who's joining us. If you're watching, please put into the chat bar who you are and where you are watching from. We love to see everybody around the world. So first of all, we have Jake from Philippines. Welcome, Jake. We have Rakid Maria, who's there, who's from Singapore. We have, and I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but you're saying you're my big fan, so thank you very much. We have Co Timsy with a question, which I'm going to get to, Co. We have Ro. We have Alexander. Hi, Alex. Great to see you here, who's starting his first day in the US. So we're very excited for you, Alex. And we hope that everybody that's watching will be able to be starting at their new job in the US soon. We have Jake, we have Louise. Hi, Louise, and shout out to, again, as always, to the Lafora team, to Louise, Jean, Paul, and everyone on the Lafora team for giving us this opportunity. And to Joe, Louise watching from Riyadh, and to Joe as well. So I'm going to get right to the questions, Carl, because the reason why we're doing this extra session is because with all the changes that have happened recently, you know, we know that everybody in the Lafora group is having sleepless nights, worried, frustrated, anxious with all the changes that are happening with the 221Gs, the retrogression, the public charge. So the purpose of today's call is to just give you an update, as well as to get to some of the questions we didn't get to last time. So Carl, if you want to maybe, let's take them one by one before we get to the questions. Any updates that people need to know? I know we've covered this, but we're still getting a lot of questions about the Public Charge Act. Do you want to maybe talk about that a little bit and how that affects everybody on this forum?
Yeah, I mean, I've written a lot on our website about the public charge rule. It is a very harsh rule, but really the last people that should be worried about it are people that are immigrating through their employment to the US, like nurses. The people that should worry about it are people who are coming in through the visa lottery, people who are coming in through the family categories. There's been a public charge rule for 100 years in the immigration law. It's a reinterpretation of it. So before, if the examiner thought you were more likely than not to go on welfare, take government benefits when you got into the US, you were considered likely to become a public charge. Now they switched it, giving these examiners a huge amount of discretion that there's a number of different factors. Your age, older people like me are going to have more trouble coming into the United States. Oh, okay. Well, you look young.
But I'm old.
People who have taken benefits in the past, people who applied for immigration benefits and asked for a fee waiver because they didn't have money, all these different categories. And it's not just if they're more likely than not. If the examiner thinks at any time in the future, they may take 12 months of public benefits out of a 36-month period, the examiner can simply say no green card or no, no temporary visa. I think a lot of people who are applying for their brothers and sisters and other family members, better prepare for that. Okay. But I don't think nurses, they're the last people that have to worry about this.
Okay. So from what you're saying, it's obviously of concern, but not for nurses at this stage. So we can
right, and I should explain why not. I mean,
okay.
The reason why is because the American employers have to pay nurses at the prevailing wage, which is going to be, it depends on where you are in the country, but it's got to be over $50,000 a year or something. So if you're making that type of money, you're not going to be on welfare. And I'd be really surprised to see them deny anybody in the employment categories as a possible public charge.
Okay. Well, that I think is good news to a lot of people who are listening and watching and worrying about the implications for nurses. If you have specific concerns, please make sure to reach out to whoever your recruitment company is, or the hospital that you're working with, or the lawyer that you're working with. But you've heard it now from Carl, and I think we can move on to the next question. One of the other burning issues at the moment is the 221G issue in Manila. And I see we have a lot more people joining us. So I just want to welcome them as well. So we've got from Gemma, from Abu Dhabi, Melissa from Philippines, Jackie from Doha, Shannon, we've got Christopher Diaz, Renz from Philippines, Joe, we already welcome, Marion from the UK, and K-Bell from Philippines. So we've got a lot of people joining. Welcome everybody. Please put your questions into the chat and we will try and get to as many of them as possible. So Carl, the 221G situation is also worrying many people in the LaFora Forum. Of course, this is something that seems to be happening more localized at the Manila consulate. We did discuss it at the last Facebook Live session, but do you have any updates for people in the forum and any advice on what to do if you are going to be going to the consulate in Manila?
So I don't know why. I mean, maybe I did something in a past life that is rewarding me, but still I have not had a single nurse that's been stopped because of 221G. But I do understand that this has become common at the embassy in Manila. And we've seen people, I've had various clients around the world with these 221Gs. Basically, there's administrative processing that they have to do. They have to do background checks and so on and so forth. And, as somebody who used to work for the Immigration Service, I understand that, they're not going to let in somebody in the US who might be a terrorist or a criminal or something like that. But, applying this so broadly, as Chris was saying on the last call, to Filipino nurses seems like a total waste of time to me. And I want to give Chris a shout out because he's negotiating with the government people right now try to put the brakes on this 221G. So I think it's, you know, basically, I think it's like this temporary bump in the road. I don't think it's anything people have to worry about in the long run, but we'll certainly update you next month about whether that's over or what's going on with 221G.
Yeah. And we're getting a lot of questions. I'm just looking at the questions as you're speaking. We get a lot of questions about the 221G status. So just to reiterate what Carl has said, and for everybody to know, there are a lot of efforts going on in the US right now. Chris is a part of that. We have also been working with many of our hospitals and many of the lawyers in the US with the lobbying government to try and you know, assist with, as Carl said, this bump in the road. But I just want to read out one of the questions that we had from one of the nurses about the situation. Carl, there was a confidential question that was posted. Is refiling a case a good choice rather than waiting for the USCIS to review? Is it okay to have the same petitioner still of the same facility? I was recently on a 221G status and then now refused and then received the 212A5A. I had that lack of employment contract because I just followed the checklist of requirements emailed to me. A friend of mine, just a few months ahead of my interview date, was approved and we had the same documents. She was only asked about the job offer. So I think the bottom line of this confidential question is it wise to wait or to refile? What is your advice in that regard?
I don't know whether I got every word of that question. Okay. It sounded, you know, sometimes these questions are very, very specific. You know, I heard 212A5 and so on and so forth. And it would be better to meet with the lawyer and show them all the paperwork. You know, if somebody went to a physician and said, oh, you know, I'm having a little bit of chest pain, should I have a pill or do I need open heart surgery? I think ethically that physician should say, look, we need to do some EKG testing and stuff before I can give you the answer. So I wouldn't want to, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's ethical to try to answer a very specific, complex question without seeing the paperwork. I don't want to give any wrong advice.
Okay. So, and I think that's a good analogy, Carl. I think for anybody who's watching and posting these questions, there might be case-specific information in your particular case. So that's where it's really important that when you sign your job offer, that you sign with a reputable company, that you work with a lawyer that is an expert with nurses, and to do your due diligence and your education process before you even sign your offer in that regard. Because if there is a bump in the road, it's really important to consult with your lawyer and make sure that you get the right advice for your specific case. Okay, so let's take another question on the 221G situation. We're getting so many questions and I'm trying to get everybody a chance to read. Let me just see here. I think we've answered Joe's question as best as we can. Oh goodness, there's so many questions here and I want to give everybody a chance. So Joe is asking, my sister was given the 212-5A letter February 24th and yet is still being updated as AP even though her priority date retrogressed this March. And I think Joe is asking about his sister's case. I know we said to refer to the lawyer that your sister's working with Joe, but any kind of broad advice, Carl, on that one?
Yeah, I'm just let me take a look on, on all these sections of law are so that the 221A5A has to do with labor certification says in order, I'm just looking at it on my phone while we're talking.
Yeah.
Inadmissibility due to labor certification. So I don't know why a nurse would be getting a 212A5, because nurses and physical therapists are the only jobs that are exempt from labor certification, because they're Schedule A shortage occupations in the US. And what that means is that if an employer is sponsoring a RN or a PT, they don't have to advertise the job. They simply put in the Labor Department forms with the I-140 petition to the Immigration Service. So unless somebody forgot to put in the forms, I'm not sure why they would trigger a denial under 212A5.
Yeah. And that's where, again, Joe, your sister needs to consult with the lawyer that worked on her case, because she needs to submit the documentation to show that she is Schedule A, if she is a registered nurse, as Carl just mentioned. So we have another question here about when a case is under AP. Carl, can you speak a little broadly about what that means, and what a nurse should do about that?
About AP, administrative processing?
Mm-hmm.
So, administrative processing could mean a lot of background checks that the government is doing. As I said before, it could be, is somebody a member of a terrorist group? Does somebody have a criminal record? They're just doing background checks on the person. Now, sometimes we had a physician recently who was being held. He went back from the United States back to his country, had been living in the US for years, and 2 months went by, 3 months went by, and they're still doing the administrative processing on him. So he called me and said, what do I have to do to get rid of this? And we went to federal court and did a petition for a writ of mandamus. Mandamus comes from that Latin word about, mandatory. You've paid fees to the government. They can't sit on your application forever. So we sued in federal court, and as usual, the government just backs down, because there really was no reason to keep this guy for months back in his country, and they gave him the green card about a week later. It's a good remedy, but not everybody can afford to have an attorney go to federal court. So the other thing is to make inquiries, to have, we've sometimes used senators and congressmen's offices to make inquiries, like what is happening with this case. This is a medically underserved area, if it is. Especially now with the coronavirus going on. I mean, in the US, it's just starting up, but I think by the end of this month, there's unfortunately going to be a lot of deaths from this. And a lot of people are going to say, we need more doctors and nurses in the United States. But to make those kind of inquiries and to get the government to, get back on its feet and process the application.
So it sounds like your best advice there is just don't give up. Continue to work with the lawyer who is handling your case, and make sure that they are continually asking and prodding the process to hopefully get the positive results that we all hope for. Correct?
Right. It's not a denial. It's just a stalling technique. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, for anyone that's living in the US, it's important to know that those checks are being made, just to make sure that everything is correct. So hopefully it's just a short delay. Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions also, Carl, about retrogression. That happened recently in this visa bulletin. I know we spoke about this a little bit on the call a few weeks ago, But if you can maybe share some insights and thoughts again in this latest retrogression. We have a question here from Marion, who's calling in, sorry, sending in a message from the UK. Any idea how long this retrogression will take? How true is no forward movement foreseen from the recent visa bulletin?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say about the retrogression is you have to view it in perspective. You know, the visa bulletin are the dates for which people can get their green cards. When your priority date, your place in line for a nurse is when the Immigration Service received the I-140 petition from your employer, okay? To put it in some perspective, back in October of 2015, it took over 7 years for a Filipino nurse to get a green card in the United States. The employers in the United States, because the time period was so long, they just didn't want to even sponsor nurses. They're looking at, you know, what's going to happen in the next few months, the next year or two, not 7 years from now. So they stopped applying, and because of that, the supply stays the same, but the demand goes down, and it went to 0 in June 2019. That was the best thing that
was a good time. We were all very happy then.
and Tanya and I were doing these you know, sessions on Facebook Live at that time, and we said, you know, hospitals, nurses, this is the best time to apply. And I think a lot of them took our advice, and so the demand started going up again. And when the demand goes up and the supply does not go up, the waiting times start to get larger again. So in March, as predicted, not only did the Philippines EB3 category retrogress, and it's a little over 3 years, but the worldwide EB3. So every country in the world for professionals, not just nurses, accountants, architects, with, you know, whatever profession it is, has retrogressed. On our website, we include not only the visa bulletin, but the visa bulletin predictions by Charles Oppenheim. Charlie has been putting out this visa bulletin for over 25 years. And every year, I mean, every month, he meets with lawyers from the American Immigration Lawyers Association and issues his predictions for the future. And I must say his predictions, I mean, you can go on our page and look at them, but it's a little bit vague. You know, Charlie does not necessarily know in the future how many employers are going to be applying under the EB3 category. So I don't expect that it's suddenly going to recover in April. I mean, we will know in a couple of weeks and we'll post it on our website. But I would say probably you're looking at, you know, I don't think it's going to go back further, but that's you know, that's just my predictions. I don't have the numbers like Charlie has from the government. But usually in October 1st, things start to, you know, it's like spring again, even though it's the fall, and the visa numbers start to get better. But I wouldn't want any nurse to think, oh, I should wait till October to have my employer sponsor me, because what you want to do is lock in your priority date now in March or April. And then when October comes, if things get better, you're going to get a green card faster. If you wait till October, there's going to be a lot of people in front of you in line. And I don't think that's a good strategy. So you know, don't panic over this. Sort of like the stock market. We had a real bad week last week. And then yesterday was like the best day. I own a lot of Apple stock and went way up yesterday. So, you know, people who sold their stock last week because it was so far down, now they're hitting themselves in the head. Like, why did I do that? So it's the same thing for nurses. Don't say, oh, I don't want to come to the US because it's gotten so long, this might be the good time to apply. And then in October, when things start getting better, you're in front of a lot of other people in line.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, Carl, because I think at the end of the day, you and I have been doing this for a long time. And what you and you know, the visa bulletin is that piece that is unpredictable and it's not in anybody's control. The piece that is in our control is to not panic, as Carl said, and to continue on this journey and not lose hope, because there is still a lot of hope. I mean, we have more and more employers coming into the market now, sponsoring nurses, moving forward with this process, because there's a shortage and it's getting worse. It's not like anyone can say this time next year the nursing shortage in the US is going to get better. If you look at all the numbers, it's a supply and demand issue, and it's only going to get worse, which means that more and more hospitals are going to be sponsoring. And now is the, you know, don't wait. As Carl and I said last year in 2019, when the Philippines was current, don't wait. Well, we're saying the same thing. Don't wait. If you haven't yet passed the NCLEX, if you haven't yet passed the IELTS, don't wait. Don't give up hope, because this is a long process. We all know that it's a frustrating process, and you can feel very demoralized and sometimes feel quite hopeless. But we need to be positive and face forward. And really, there's no time like the present to get in and to get a petitioner who will sponsor you right now. Carl, the one question that we've been getting from a lot of nurses as well is it worthwhile for an employer to pay for premium processing while there is this retrogression right now?
I really think not. You know, when we're talking, you know, I mean, let's say things get better in October and it's only a year backlog instead of a 3-year backlog. Even immigration, as slow as they've been lately, will approve a petition, I-140 petition, in 6 to 8 months. And unless the waiting time, you know, gets really, you know, back down to nothing again, you know, premium processing costs $1,440, and it will get the petition approved in a few weeks, but you're still going to have to wait, whether it's 3 years or 1 year. So I'm telling employers, don't bother with premium processing right now.
Okay, good advice. Thank you for that, Carl. I'm going to do one more question. We have a lot of questions coming in, and Carl and his team have kindly offered to answer the questions we couldn't get to in the forum. So thank you so much for doing that, Carl. We know how busy you and your team are, so we really appreciate you adding value that way to everybody in the fora. So one last question is, we have a lot of nurses, especially Filipino-born nurses, who are now Canadian citizens and are coming to the US on the TN and would like to do a green card in the future. So we're getting questions about that, and we have one from Christopher Dyers. I know Christopher. Hi there, Christopher, and welcome. So Christopher's question is, how long will it take for an old priority date to be recaptured by a new employer? I'm already working in the US under TN, and I know Christopher's been there for quite a while. How long is the processing for adjusting status? And Christopher's old priority date is 2008.
Okay, so it's actually two separate things. It's one about recapture and one about adjustment of status. So when your now employer files a new petition for you, they should include the notice of approval of the previous petition, and it will be just the regular I-140 processing time. So if it's a petition from several years ago, then I'll reverse my previous advice and say, well, maybe they do want to premium process that. In which case you'll probably get an approval with the old priority date in about 3 weeks, okay? But on the other hand, the amount of time it takes to adjust your status, which means getting a green card while you're in the United States, it varies from city to city. In Los Angeles, where I am, it's about a year to do that. But in some places it's 6 months, in other places it's 18 months. So if it's long, it may not be smart for the employer to premium process. So I'm going to get somebody else in this, but you have to look on the USCIS.gov page. You go under tools, and then it says case processing times, and you put in the form number, the I-485, and then the city where you're going to adjust status, and then it'll tell you what it is. And if it's a year or more, then I would forget about premium processing. If it's less than, significantly less than a year, it might be something that would be worth it. I just wanted to say that, you know, we're talking about people not panicking, not losing hope. One of the first people, when they changed the immigration laws in the 1960s to immigrate to the US and then immigrate her family later, is standing next to me. So she just wants to say hi.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Atty.
Welcome.
Say hi to the
Sonia, do you want to
nurses.
tell a little bit about your
Kayo
story?
dyan, mga kababayan.
Okay.
Good luck to all of you.
Sonia, don't go yet. Sonia, do you want to tell everybody on the forum a little bit about your story to give everybody hope? Don't give up on your American dream.
Oh, yeah. Shall I say it in Tagalog?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pagdating ko dito noong 1965, wala, hindi pa kayo you were not born yet.
I was born, Sonia.
Nag-aaral ako sa Chicago. Tapos, na-pass yung professional visa to immigrate. If you have a profession, you can immigrate as a professional. So I applied, got it in 6 months. Pagkatapos, umalis agad ako o pumunta ako sa Europe, nag-aral din ako doon, tapos bumalik na naman ako. Ngayon, nagtrabaho ako sa immigration for 9 na taon. Ngayon, kayo din, nag-expect ako na papunta din kayo dito. Kailangan kayo lahat dito sa US kasi wala masyadong nurse dito. Okay? Good luck sa inyo lahat.
Thank you for sharing. That was lovely. What a great way to end off the session. We're talking a lot about problems, public charge, retrogression, 221Gs. Never give up hope, everybody who's watching, and Sonia is proof of that. I want to thank Carl for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time and doing this extra session. I know that there's so many questions, and I'm so sorry that we weren't able to get to everybody's questions. But thank you, Carl, again, for you and your team, agreeing to go through the forum and answering as many questions as possible. Louise will let you know, everybody, when we'll be doing our next session. And thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.